Imagine, like, if you could live forever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you could, like, download your brain into a computer.
Whoa.
That's what we're talking about today.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing.
Transhumanism, baby.
Transhumanism.
I'm Edward, and this is Lily, and this is Dansplain, where we try to, like, Dansplain things.
That's right.
So what is transhumanism? Well, Lily, you've been looking into this.
It's it's this idea that like humans can evolve beyond our current like limitations. Limitations. You know, using technology and stuff.
So, like, cyborgs and all that?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, so let's, like, start at the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
how far back does this idea actually go?
Well, you wouldn't believe it, but it goes way back, like ancient myths and stuff.
Really? Like, what myths?
Like Icarus, you know, trying to fly too close to the sun.
Yeah.
That's about like pushing boundaries, right?
I guess so.
And like the ancient Egyptians, they were obsessed with the afterlife.
Right.
Taoists, they had all these practices for like immortality.
So it's always been there.
Yeah, like this deep desire to overcome death, to be more than human.
Okay, but when did this, like, move beyond just myths and legends?
Well, during the Enlightenment, things started to change.
The Enlightenment.
Yeah, you know, like 18th century reason, science progress.
Right.
That kind of thinking.
Gotcha.
So people started thinking like, hey, maybe we can actually improve ourselves.
Using science.
Exactly. Like Marquis de Condorcet, he was a thinker back then.
Condorcet, okay.
And he actually wrote about human perfectibility.
So basically, transhumanism before it was cool.
Uh-huh. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so we've got these ancient myths and then Enlightenment philosophers.
Right.
But when did someone actually use the word transhumanism?
That happened in the 20th century. A biologist named Julian Huxley.
Huxley.
He wrote an essay in 1957 called New Bottles for New Wine.
Catchy?
And in that essay, boom, the word transhumanism.
So what did he mean by it?
Well, it's all about conscious evolution, like humans taking control.
Control of what specifically?
Of our own evolution, like using science and technology to transcend our limitations.
Not just letting evolution take its course.
No, like actively shaping our own future.
That's pretty radical.
Yeah, for the time it was.
And you can't talk about transhumanism without talking about science fiction.
Oh, absolutely. Science fiction has played a huge role.
Huge.
Yeah, like H.G. Wells' The Time Machine.
Classic.
Exploring the future of humanity.
And Isaac Asimov with I, Robot.
Thinking about AI and its relationship with humans.
These books really got people thinking about these possibilities.
For sure, they made the ideas more tangible, less abstract.
So we've got the philosophy, the sci-fi. What about the actual science?
Well, in the mid-20th century, we had this field called cybernetics emerging.
Cybernetics, never heard of it.
It's all about control and communication in systems.
Systems like what?
Like machines and living organisms, both.
Okay, interesting.
The key guy here is Norbert Wiener.
Wiener, okay.
He was all about feedback loops, how systems use information to regulate themselves.
So like a thermostat.
Yeah, exactly like that.
Oh, cool.
And then you've got scientists like J.B.S. Haldane.
Haldane.
He was making predictions about genetic engineering.
Wow, ahead of his time.
Yeah, and also about integrating humans with machines.
Like cyborgs.
Pretty much.
Okay, so we've got all these ideas floating around, but when did transhumanism become like an actual movement?
That happened in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
There's this guy, FM 2030.
That's his name.
Yeah, really interesting guy. Iranian-American futurist.
Futurist sounds cool.
He was all about embracing technology to overcome limitations.
So a true transhumanist.
Absolutely. And he wrote this book in 1989 called Are You a Transhuman?
Straight to the point.
Right. Then in 1988, Max Moore founded the Extropy Institute.
Extropy, what's that?
It's a kind of transhumanism that emphasizes optimism, progress, individual liberty.
Okay, so pretty radical.
Yeah, definitely.
And then in 1998, Nick Bostrom and David Pierce founded the World Transhumanist Association.
Right, which later became Humanity Plus.
Humanity Plus, catchy.
They created the Transhumanist Declaration, which outlines the goals of the movement.
Like what kind of goals?
Things like extending lifespan, enhancing intelligence, mitigating existential risks.
Whoa, big goals.
Yeah, they're thinking big.
Okay, so we've covered the history, the philosophy, the movement. Let's talk tech.
All right, let's get into it.
What are the key technologies that are making transhumanism a reality?
Well, there are a few big ones. First, biotechnology.
Biotech.
Yeah, like the Human Genome Project. Remember that?
I've heard of it.
Completed in 2003. Huge achievement.
Huge.
We mapped the entire human genome.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it opened up so many possibilities for understanding and manipulating our biology.
And that leads us to CRISPR, right?
Exactly. CRISPR is a game changer.
Game changer, how so?
It's a gene editing technology that's incredibly precise.
Precise like how?
It's like having molecular scissors that can cut and paste DNA.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's pretty amazing we can target specific genes and change them.
So what can we do with that?
Potentially eliminate genetic diseases before birth.
That's huge.
And even enhance certain traits.
Like make people stronger or smarter.
That's the idea, but it's obviously very controversial.
Right. Ethical concerns abound.
Absolutely. We have to be very careful with this technology.
Okay, so that's biotech. What about AI?
AI is another huge area of progress.
Huge. How so?
Think about Deep Blue beating Kasparov in chess back in 1997.
I vaguely remember that.
That was a big deal. But now we have things like GPT.
GPT, okay.
These AI models can write text, translate languages, even code.
That's mind-blowing.
It is, and it's fueling this idea that we might create AI that surpasses human intelligence.
Like the singularity?
Exactly.
And then there's Neuralink.
Ah, yes. Elon Musk's company.
What are they up to?
They're developing brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs.
BCIs, okay.
The goal is to connect our brains directly to computers.
Like a USB port in your head.
Kinda.
What would that even be used for?
Well, initially things like treating neurological disorders.
That makes sense.
But eventually, who knows? Augmenting our cognitive abilities, communicating telepathically.
Telepathy, whoa.
It's all very sci-fi, but they're actually doing human trials.
Wow. Things are moving fast.
They really are.
Okay, so we've talked about genes and brains. What about just living longer?
Yes, the quest for immortality.
That's a classic one.
We've got cryonics where they freeze people after death.
Hoping to revive them later.
Exactly like Alcor. They've been doing it since 1972.
That's a long time.
It is. And then there's research into aging itself.
Like trying to stop it.
Yeah, companies like Calico Labs are dedicated to understanding aging and developing therapies.
To treat aging like a disease.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
And then there are senolytics.
Senolytics, what are those?
They're drugs that target and eliminate senescent cells.
Senescent cells.
Yeah, they're like zombie cells, old and damaged, contributing to aging.
So get rid of the zombies.
Basically, the idea is to extend healthy lifespan by removing these cells.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this ties together.
It's all about pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It really is.
But it's not all sunshine and roses, right?
Definitely not. There are some serious ethical concerns.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, access to these technologies.
Right. Not everyone will be able to afford them.
Exactly, which could lead to a transhuman elite.
A two-tiered society, the enhanced and the unenhanced.
Is a real concern.
And then there are the unintended consequences.
Like, what if we create an AI that turns against us?
The classic sci-fi trope.
But it's a real possibility.
And what about the impact on our humanity?
Right. What does it even mean to be human if we're constantly enhancing ourselves?
Are we losing something essential in the process?
These are deep philosophical questions.
They really are.
And we don't have easy answers.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From ancient myths to cutting-edge technology.
It's been quite a journey.
But what does the future of transhumanism hold?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
What's going to happen in the next few decades?
And beyond.
In the new term, I think we'll see continued progress in extending lifespan.
So people living to 120, 150.
Maybe even longer.
Wow.
And cognitive enhancements will likely become more common.
Like brain implants and stuff.
Yeah, things like that. Improving memory focus, maybe even creativity.
Creativity. That's interesting.
Imagine if we could boost our creative potential.
That would be wild.
And then there's the longer term stuff like post-biological bodies.
Post-biological. What does that even mean?
It's the idea that we might transcend our physical bodies altogether.
Like uploading our minds into computers.
Yeah, or creating entirely new artificial bodies.
That's some serious sci-fi stuff.
It is, but it's not impossible.
I guess anything is possible at this point.
Right. And then there's the singularity.
The big one.
When AI surpasses human intelligence.
What happens then?
No one knows for sure.
It's a mystery.
Some people think it'll be a utopia, others think it'll be a disaster.
So we're just along for the ride. And what about space exploration?
Transhumanism is very relevant to space exploration.
How so?
Well, if we want to colonize other planets, we might need to enhance ourselves.
To survive in harsh environments.
Exactly, like adapting to different gravity radiation levels, atmospheres.
So future space travelers might be transhuman.
It's a possibility.
And that leads us to the concept of post-humanity.
Right. What does it mean to be human in a future where we've radically changed ourselves?
Are we still human at that point?
These are questions we'll have to grapple with as we move forward.
Big questions.
Huge ones.
Well, Lily, this has been a fascinating conversation.
I've enjoyed it.
It's incredible to think about how far we've come.
And how far we might go.
It's exciting and a little bit scary.
Definitely both.
But one thing's for sure, the future is going to be wild.
Wild indeed.
And if you want to learn more about all things transhumanism and other mind-blowing topics,
Mind-blowing.
head over to www.dansplain.xyz.
You can find all our latest deep dives there.
Plus articles, partner products, and more.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time. Bye.